Welcome to Vantage Point Podcast, a podcast brought to you by NWR Communications and 92 Studio. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. G'day and welcome to NWR's latest episode of Vantage Point, where we get behind the leaders who are driving success within the Australian market. And we're privileged today to have CEO and co-founder of Close the Loop in Joe Foster. Before I introduce Joe, I'll just give a bit of a recap on Close the Loop. Listed at the start of December in 2021. Raised $12 million, 20 cents, had a market cap of around 65 million, listed through Aiken Mountain Cumulus Wealth. Fast forward to today, the company's just raised $44 million at about 33 cents a few months ago with the acquisition of ISP. And it's fair to say, looking at the company today, we're just nudging on 50 cents. It's been a great success in the market caps to just a bit over 230 million, albeit with acquisitions. So it's a testament to you and to the team, Joe. So thanks very much for joining me and well done.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Pleasure. So before we crack in, I just want you to talk to the circular economy. What is it? How does Close the Loop play? And why is it so important?
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. I mean, circular economy for Close the Loop has been really paramount in the foundation of the business. You know, going back 21 years ago, when the Close the Loop actual business was founded in Australia, it was built around the brand promise of zero waste to landfill, which really meant that any products that they were processing, refurbishing, recycling had to actually go back into the circular economy. So that brand promise itself has actually certainly been fulfilled over the last 21 years, and that's something that we really truly believe in, and it's something we'd like to try and build within our overall business structure within the Close the Loop group itself. Circular economy is very important in all aspects of our business, not just within the Close the Loop operational businesses in America, Australia and Belgium, but also within the packaging space. The nice thing about it, bringing both businesses together, as you mentioned in December 2021, allowed the packaging business, which was the OF Pack business, to really have an end-to-end solution by utilising the services of Close the Loop recycling ability to build a platform offering packaging to the industry where we have the ability to take it back and put it back into true circularity.
And you talked about OF Pack there, and it's probably a good place to start. But can you just talk to us about the foundations of the business? Obviously, I think there's 12 or 13 different divisions or businesses today. But if you could just sort of step us through the sort of merger of back then and also since then in terms of the different businesses that you've acquired.
Yeah, well, essentially we call it the merge of the Close the Loop businesses. The packaging business, which is really the OF Pack businesses, is a combination of over 25 years. On the packaging side, Simon, we founded, or certainly I founded Foster Packaging back in 1998 in South Africa, and built the business up, and then moved to Australia, built a business in Australia, and we founded OF Pack. And over the last certainly 4 or 5 years, we acquired businesses locally in the Australian market, while Close the Loop was certainly operational in North America, Europe, and certainly Australia. We saw it as a great opportunity, as I mentioned, to merge the business together. But once we merged the business together, we saw other opportunities that could actually be bolted on to our Close the Loop group business that was very much circularity and having these businesses operating within a circular space. A great example would be, at the time we listed, we took on a seafood packaging and bulk handling business called Oceanic Agency. And that was a natural bolt-on because within the packaging space, seafood packaging was our number 3 market from a global perspective. We then took on a company called Crasty & Co., which was really bulk handling and bulk bags within the Australian market, being in operation for 25 plus years, and really set the standards for bulk handling around bulk bags in Australia. And again, once we took that business on, we started looking at a take-back program to handle the recyclability and sorting of these bulk bags after use. Then later in the year, we took a company on called Alliance Paper, which is specialising in chemical-free paper and thermal paper, and also sustainable paper, which is really a natural bolt-on for the packaging side of the business, whereby we can actually supply paper to our packaging space, because we're seeing paper starting to replace some of the plastic materials from a recyclability point of view as well. And so, as you know, then obviously in North America, we saw a good opportunity to take the plastics business on, which was Inplast, which was a good bolt-on for the Close the Loop business in Hebron, Kentucky. And the big acquisition, of course, was the ISP, and that really was a great opportunity to expand their space within the OEMs that we currently served. or should I say, serve at this particular moment in time.
And so, just in terms of those different businesses, obviously they each play a different sort of role in the circular economy. How do you realise synergies across those, or are they sort of standalone and you're sort of playing it, sort of sector by sector, or is there any sort of synergies that you can extract there?
I mean, first of all, Simon, I think you're right. I mean, certainly all businesses that have been involved, or certainly are involved with the Closed Loop Group, do play a very important role in the circular economy. The business that we've taken on of late, and certainly over the last 18 months, would have to have a circular economy story behind it, or the ability or option to be involved within a circular economy. There's lots of synergies I see, and certainly a lot of cross-selling opportunities, particularly within the packaging space, because we're servicing existing clients, not just here in Australia, but certainly around the world. So we could see a good synergistic opportunity from a sales perspective. But the one big synergy for us really is the opportunity of trying to boost our packaging sales as a result of our ability to physically recycle the packaging material. So therefore, we're offering packaging that is now sustainable. We have a very good potential end of life. The ability to collect it through our reverse logistics infrastructure that we've built here in Australia, and then turn it into something tangible, like as we do with Tonoplast is a great example here in Australia. And of course, the idea is to roll that out into North America and roll it out into Europe as well. And of course, as you do know, with the ISP transaction and Close the Loop, there's some great synergies there because we're operating within the same space in the marketplace through the OEMs. Good example, I mean, we deal with quite a few of the same OEMs like HP, Brother, and so forth. So naturally, we would create some unbelievable synergies with our ability to sort of pick up additional revenue as a result of the strength of the relationship that ISP would have with some of these OEMs that Close the Loop don't have.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just in terms of, for those watching or listening, can you just sort of give some practical examples, particularly of those that people may have seen, whether it's, sort of MAC Cosmetics in terms of Estee Lauder, or the sort of battery recycling programs, and also probably post that, just running us through Tonoplast and what it actually is and whatnot. But if you could just start with some examples in terms of
course.
Programs.
Of course. Thank you. So maybe if we could go back a step, and that step really is about the business, the original closed loop business, which actually recovers and recycles print cartridges at scale. So we're talking about your toner cartridges and your ink cartridges. Remembering the brand promise of zero waste to landfill, which really means that we cannot send any byproduct or any product whatsoever to landfill. And therefore, we needed to find a home for toner. Yep. Okay. First of all, we actually developed toner that went into roads, which was actually a product called TonerPave. But over the last 5 or 6 years, we actually worked with soft plastics and toner powder and some other key ingredients to make Tonoplast, which is an asphalt additive and improves the efficiency of the roads and also creates longevity with regards to the term of life on the road as well.
And so that's being commercialised and actually on the roads?
Indeed it is. In fact, we've serviced quite a number of roads around Australia. We work with local councils and also governments to get this product certainly specified. Ideally, we'd like to have it mandated, of course, which means we have a good solution for not only the toner, but certainly the biggest issue around soft plastics here in Australia. If it was mandated, it would make a big difference. And what we're doing at this particular moment in time is that we're building a new plant in Melbourne. This plant will be up and running by the end of the year, and we would envisage being able to process in excess of 5,500 to 6,000 tonnes of finished product per year. That's just one particular plant. Our objective, quite clearly, is to roll it out into South Australia, New South Wales and Brisbane as the demand is really there. Because the Tonoplast that we make, as an example, is not a road filler. Companies around the world have put plastics into roads, but it's essentially like horizontal landfill. It only really has one life. When the road gets dug up, this product goes to landfill, whereas the product that we manufacture gets recycled over and over again. So it's really a true circular economy story.
No, that makes a heap of sense. And just in terms of some of the other examples with regards to sort of recycling programs and that consumers would have seen sort of firsthand, and in particular in terms of the MAC Cosmetics, can you just talk to that?
Indeed, I mean, what's quite interesting is our engagement with consumers, not just through the program that we have for print consumables. I mean, just to give you an example, we have like over 60,000 collection sites in Australia. We have 200,000 plus collection sites in North America, and probably 30,000 plus touch points in Europe. The model is a little bit different. But we want to engage with consumers and show them that we can actually bring these difficult to recycle consumable products back to store. So we've in Australia we've had this Back to Mac program in place for over 10 years, and quite recently we launched the Take Back program with Estee Lauder in North America, and at this particular moment we are already recycling large volumes of recyclable cosmetic materials that come into our processing facility as a result of collection boxes in place across quite a few hundred sites in North America, where the consumers can bring the product back to store. In some cases they can get a discount for purchasing a new product. But it really, engagement with consumers is really what it's all about. And from the studies that we've seen, and certainly from the discussions that we've had with consumers, they want to do something with these products. They don't want to just send it to landfill.
So in terms of, and that was going to be one of the things that I asked earlier, with regards to education or sort of incentives to the consumer to actually drive the circular economy. I mean, obviously new generations coming through are much more sort of prone or educated and want to do good for the environment because they've only got sort of one world sort of thing. But in terms of how you sort of see it from whether it's your customer or close the loop, how important is it, from an awareness perspective? On that front.
It's very key to our business model. In fact, we're very active with industry bodies, not just in Australia, in Africa, in North America, trying to be the mouthpiece, trying to help consumers, trying to help businesses, but then talking to businesses whereby we can actually bring it right down to the next level of consumers. We actually really want to develop our business so much so that Close the Loop becomes a household name. People understand what it really means around circular economy, the important part that they can play with regards to bringing products back to be recycled. I think long in the days where consumers just put stuff into your trash can bin or into your recycling bin, they're wanting, particularly the younger generation, as you've mentioned, want to find a home for these products. And as you probably know, in Australia we were very active with soft plastics, and we do feel pretty strong around the fact that we'll have the ability to rebuild that program certainly by the end of the year.
Once the plant's back up and running.
100%. So, and there's enough plastics out there that we can actually work. A very good example with soft plastics is the greater city of Bendigo, where we have collection and drop-off points at the depots. And consumers in Bendigo are very aware of what they need to do with their soft plastics, which is quite good. They actually physically take it back to the depot. We've got a very good program in place with the greater city of Bendigo, whereby we take these soft plastics, we recycle the soft plastics, obviously blended with the toner and other ingredients, and sell it back to them as tonoplast. So if we take 40,000 kilograms as an example, we'll sell them back 40,000 kilograms of finished product. And we're saying, can you imagine engaging with consumers like that all around the country, where they have the ability to go back to the local council, bring the soft plastics back, and guess what? They can actually manufacture roads and
actually make a real difference.
Make a big difference.
In terms of leadership, Joe, obviously you're CEO of the business. It's ASX listed. You were the CEO of your own business once upon a time, but now there's 13 odd different businesses sort of brought together. How do you see yourself as a leader, first and foremost?
I suppose that question could be really asked of other people, but I see it as a great opportunity for me personally. I've been very fortunate to be in my own business now for 25 years, and I classify even Close the Loop as my own business for sure, and that's the way I treat it. Leadership is very important, there's no doubt about it, particularly when you have 13 businesses. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by a very strong team, individual teams, and certainly individual units from each geographical area. As you may know, we're based in 4 continents at this moment in time, and within each region, it's essentially like a standalone region or a standalone business rather, and each company is really responsible for its own P&L. So we do have pretty robust discussions about where we're standing and where we're looking with regards to forecasting and budgeting for the FY24. But I do think the teams we have are pretty good, and my job is really to make sure that we can deliver on what we believe we can put out with regards to a forecast or a budget point of view. I always say this, that the business has got to where it is today, not because of me. I think it's because of the people that surround me and the leadership roles, individual leadership roles within those organisations.
And just in terms of forecasts, just sort of recap FY24, which we've just ticked over into. Revenue sort of forecasting over 200 million, an EBITDA of 43 million plus. which is obviously a real significant business now. I was going to ask this question later in the piece, but it sort of fits into the narrative now. If we're looking at Close the Loop in sort of 5 years' time, how do you sort of, Xing out financials, how do you see it as a business in terms of, what is it achieving? What sort of scale is it at?
Absolutely. And Simon, I'm sure you know, we're a very ambitious company, there's no doubt about it. And from the outset, we said this is not a roll-up, not by any stretch of the imagination. Myself and certainly the team and the executive team on the board are here for the long journey. There's no doubt about that. We're ambitious in the way that we say we would see ourselves in about 2 or 3 years' time being a $500 million business. No reason why we couldn't. How we can do that is out of strong organic growth, no doubt about it, and certainly inorganic growth.
Yep.
Even though we've published and said we're not really actively looking, but of course there's opportunities coming away all the time. We do want to concentrate quite heavily within the refurbishment, the recycling space, and the circular economy. I mean, that's really where our future lies. People have asked me, Joe, what is the future around their business split between packaging and resource recovery, as an example. What's quite interesting, when we started the business off, we were sitting at 60% packaging and 40% resource recovery. At the end of the last financial year, it was heavily weighted. Heavily weighted. The packaging side was still more than the resource recovery. Now, as a result of the ISP, we're sitting at 64%, 34% packaging. We would see ourselves in the future like having a very good concentration in North America and really working towards a greater circular economy business model for the future, looking at what else is out there. How can we strengthen our position within the consumer electronic items, as an example? How can we expand our services into Europe? How can we take what we're doing in America and do it in Australia? Very much in that space, but still seeing packaging as a good cash generating business for our organisation.
Talking to cash generating ISP, it's a great business in terms of that you've acquired. I think it was in March of this year. Can you just sort of run us through it in a little bit more detail? Obviously, it's the refurbisher or the official refurbisher for HP and their tech products and whatnot, whether it's laptops, printers, etc. Can you just run us through why a business like HP, it's a behemoth, why wouldn't they just do it themselves?
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at ISP is a great example. Still, people see it as a young business, but it took essentially 2 years to get it up and running in terms of building the whole reverse logistics model.
And so, sorry, just when you say reverse logistics, just break that down for us.
Yeah, of course. So at the moment, your OEMs, let's say certainly in North America, do not manufacture any electronic items. Laptops is a great example. So in the past, if a consumer brought a product back to store, those products were collated and eventually sent back via whatever the carrier was to China, and they would be refurbished, remanufactured, and turned around back into America within 8 to 10 months time. There was no real reverse logistics in place because the fact of these OEMs don't own any infrastructure. They're actually essentially an IP marketing R&D based company, and all the manufacturing of these electronic consumable items are done offshore, as a good example, maybe made in Asia. So what was happening in North America was, particularly with ISP, they saw a great opportunity to bring that repurpose and remanufacturing back into North America and be able to turn around these return goods back into the store within 30-40 days, as opposed to waiting for 6 or 8 months. So therefore, you're getting the same models in the marketplace within
which
a
is
short
critical,
period of time, which is quite important, but controlled under HP and sold and branded and certified and certainly guaranteed all under the brand of HP as a good example. So we saw it as a great opportunity to look at expanding our space within the OEMs. Obviously, both Close the Loop and ISP operate within that similar space of OEM brands. And for us, we said, well, okay, naturally, the next bolt-on for us would be to look at electronic consumable items, which will then give us a bigger, wider suite of products that we can offer OEM number 1, OEM number 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So in North America, the protection and remanufacturing of electronic consumers that control data is very much about keeping it in country rather than sending it out. They want to try and protect the data. So when you bring back a laptop or bring back a printer, there's very important data still on there, even though people believe they've wiped that data off. So these returns that are coming back to the store are essentially brand new in some cases, or could be used within a week or two. But this product is actually turned around, as I said, within 30, 40 days and then being sold back into the marketplace as as an example, an HP certified product.
And in terms of returns, I think the stat is something like 5% of all purchases
Correct.
are returned. And obviously it's a massive market, so it's a big business.
It's very different to here, Simon,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and what is interesting is, as you said, like, within let's call it 5% as an example. If HP were selling, using HP as an example, 50,000 laptops within that model, there's up to, could be up to 5%, depending on who the vendor is, of course, returns model in there, and that means that they've allowed for returns to take place.
Yeah.
And when you look at the facility in South Lake in Dallas, some of the units that come back have not even been opened and not even been touched. So we also have the ability for spot buys as well when we're looking at buying redundant stock as well, which is an opportunity. These goods have not even been opened.
Yeah.
And again, we can take them and refurb them and put them back into the market as a remanufactured product. I think what's interesting is when we resell these products back into the marketplace in North America, a lot of them are sold through the likes of Amazon and under the brand Amazon Renew. And what we found out was, in fact, that Amazon Renew are selling more refurbished laptops for HP as new laptop compared to new laptops, which is quite interesting. So there's a bit of a trend there in terms of remanufacturing, and I think clever enough for ISP to take on this opportunity and see this opportunity not just only within HP but certainly within other OEMs to do the same, because what actually happens with regards to returns is that these products go to auction in the marketplace. So your OEMs, from my opinion, are losing their brand identity, because the question is about what about protection of software, what about protection of warranties and so forth, whereas the products that we put through our ISP plant are actually sold under the HP brand, as an example.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose in terms of from price protection as well,
very much so.
It's secure that way. The way that I look at ISP, it's obviously a really critical part to the business in the future, and almost somewhat even the blue sky. How do you sort of look at what ISP could be, in terms of add-ons, obviously country expansion, to Europe and whatnot? It's still, as you say, a young business, but it's got such a trusted relationship with its key OEM in HP, but obviously there's a lot more OEMs out there as well, and tooled up, raise money, and we can, well equipped to tackle that now. How do you sort of look at it, in the future?
The key word you say there, Simon, is well equipped. There's no doubt about it. We did also make an announcement quite recently that the ISP plant certainly did upgrade its facility to bring on additional revenue through being able to remanufacture and remodel a larger proportion of laptops is a great example. I mean, we process in excess of 1,500 per day, whereas now we have the ability to process in excess of 2,000 per day, and that's just one shift. So where does ISP fit into the future? I mean, naturally, we want to work with the big OEMs, of course, the likes of the HPs and so forth, where there's a lot of low-hanging fruits. There's a wider expansion within the likes of an HP and other OEMs to be able to offer additional services. I think at the moment we've got quite a lot of products that we're processing for the likes of an HP, like printers, laptops, commercial printers, even enterprise printers, your desktops and gamer consoles is a good example. And we're saying is that what we do in North America, there's no reason why. In fact, we're active with it in Europe. We would look to do something similar in Australia, and of course, Africa is a great opportunity. It's a great springboard for us to be able to take our products that are not physically able to be refurbished at a certain level that we can actually sell off into Africa. But we see also the experience and certainly the relationship that ISP have got with the likes of HP. At a very senior level, and in their business model is about the refurbishment, the circular economy, and that fits right into our wheelhouse. I mean, our business in North America is very much ESG forward facing, and we want to be seen as the trusted partner for HP within that space, because HP have put out there publicly that they want to look at refurbishing and remanufacturing laptops is a good example. Electronic consumables by 2030 up to 3 times.
So that's consumers basically buying and selling and using it again 3 times.
Using
right?
it 3 times, and then but putting it through a trusted partner like an ISP, where we have the ability to refurb it to the specification that HP have set, or if not refurb, we can harvest and take some really key components out of laptops, and laptops is a great example. But then also what I think is for us a very interesting scenario is where if we physically can't refurbish or we physically can't harvest for parts, is to be able to recycle these materials and separate the plastics, which is what we do in our plant in America, Australia and Belgium. Separate those individual plastics. So you've got plastic A, B and C, separate the metals, different types of metals, and turn those plastics back into print cartridges as a great example. And that itself is a real good, true circular story. Likes of HP and Brother and Canon, I mean, they are looking to actually want to take products that are not physically remanufacturable into a recycled option. That's really where they're trying to avoid as much product going to landfill as possible.
No, that makes sense. And in terms of the tailwinds, you're obviously in a sweet spot with regards to sort of legislative and community support. Can you just touch on what they really mean to close the loop in terms of how they're driving the business forward, both from a customer perspective in terms of the industries, and also with regards to any involvement with government or tailwinds there?
I think some of the legislative tailwinds are very favourable for our business, no doubt about it. I mean, if we look at it from even within the packaging space and the print consumables and electronic consumables, we're very active in Europe as a great example. 2025, all electronic consumables, or certainly print consumables, have to, not all, but up to 25%, I believe, must be refurbished or remanufactured. That plays right into our space. And what we're doing, in fact, we're launching a pilot program with all the OEMs in Europe for a multi-branded take-back program, which is very favourable. And we're saying is that if you want to have physically 25% as an example of products to be refurbished or remanufactured back into an original specification of a print cartridge under the brand of Canon, Brother or so forth, you probably have to collect in excess of 80%. Because within that, there's obviously seconds, there's obviously products that are not refurbishable and so on and so forth. So we got all the OEMs around the one table back in February this year, and we talked about this multi-vendor program, and we've got a very strong support place already taking part, I believe, in the first part of the financial year FY24. So that in a way is very favourable from us, and it's being driven certainly by the legislative tailwinds, but we didn't wait. We want to actually get it in place before 2025 kicks in place. From a packaging point of view, Australia is no different to the rest of the world, and certainly first world countries where the targets are being put in place for all packaging to be recyclable, reusable or compostable by 2025. And all packaging must actually contain 50% recycled content. It was actually 30%, but they've changed that over the last 2 years to 50%. Now that's okay for plastic bottles, for glass jars, for Coca-Cola tins as a great example, or even cardboard boxes, because you can recycle. Those materials are all single-based type of materials, but the plastics that we operate with in our space is quite difficult, because it's normally your plastic bag for pet food is a great example. Some would be made out of mixed plastics, therefore quite difficult to recycle. But we've got good options through the closed loop business. And it's very favourable for us to be able to not only recycle those mixed plastics at scale at our plants in Australia and eventually in North America and Europe, but also have the ability to develop specialised take-back programs where we want to make the plastic more simpler, made out of one type of plastic rather than multi-layers of plastic, and therefore the end of life or the potential end of life of that plastic becomes much better. There's a true value to it rather than actually going to landfill. So I think we're very sort of fortunate to be in that position from a legislative perspective to be ahead of the game. And certainly from a packaging point of view, we seem to be, well, from maybe I'm being biased, but I think we seem to be the go-to company for solutions around sustainability because we play in that space.
So Joe, obviously the company's been listed since December 2021. You've been around for a few years, 25, 30 years. I feel like the company personally is in the absolute right position with regards to tailwinds, as we've discussed. How do you feel about going to work each day? Obviously there's thousands of shareholders, hundreds of employees, and a whole heap of customers. Are you as motivated now as ever, or how do you feel about that?
I do understand that I am answerable to over that 1,000 shareholders, and I tell everybody I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I get paid a salary for fulfilling my hobby. I love being involved in business. I still treat the business as my own business. Certainly being involved, working for myself for over 25 years now means a hell of a lot, and I look after the business as it's mine, and certainly looking after the money, looking after the people. Very fortunate to be surrounded by good people, And I think for me, the love of the business is never going to change because being involved in packaging for over 40 years and now within the recycling space of print consumables for the last 2 years, I see it as a new challenge, a new journey for me. And I want to put the passion that I have within the packaging space into the circular economy, into the ESG space, and certainly all around print consumables and what else we want to bring in online, like the Back to Mac program, cosmetics. What's also very pleasing for me is that we've got a pretty good can-do attitude, and a great example is as a result of our recent acquisition with ISP, some new opportunities have come about through the previous owner, Sammy Solomon from ISP, and getting together and embracing some new opportunities was a matter of we're going to figure it out, we make it work. And I don't want to lose that passion. I don't want to lose
the
that
entrepreneurial, yeah.
Very important in our business. Is our attitude is about, we'll figure it out, we'll do it. Of course, we'll do it. We'll always be responsible to our shareholders, always be responsible to our people to ensure that we're delivering what we want to deliver. But for us, it's the satisfying fact of making things happen and making it happen fast. I don't want to lose that. And certainly when the job that I've got and when I'm moving into the future is I want to keep that flexibility and the entrepreneurship in the business itself, because that does mean a lot, not just to the market, but it means a lot to the people that work within our organisation. And I think truly it probably means a lot to our investors as well, because we want to make sure that there's still a strong interest to deliver.
I think to that point, it sort of helps in a way in terms of having the different businesses, all sort of disparate, that they can all, march at 100% instead of all being one conglomerate, becoming a big business hierarchy, trying to pass things through. You said time and time again that start off small and grow really fast, and then things become bureaucratic and whatnot. So I think that's a really good point. Joe, you've been working together for, I think, probably 6 or 7 months. Obviously the company's done really well, but it's a pleasure working, and usually it doesn't work this way in terms of the good people sort of finish last, but I truly mean it in terms of, I want Close the Loop to succeed, in terms of, all the people behind Close the Loop. They're really passionate, and I hope those that have listened or watched today can really see that come out. But watch this space. Obviously we're talking to FY24 in terms of revenue of 200 plus, and EBITDA of 43 plus, but we have sort of highlighted that post the acquisition of ISP, we're still just getting our feet under the table per se. So there's a number of potential synergies and additions there to realise, and I think having again that entrepreneurial spirit and passion has you in very good stead. So thanks very much for joining us today, and good luck for the future.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.